It all started just 2 days after my wedding. The weather in Chicago was warm, the sky golden with early summer sunlight, and my new home still smelled of fresh paint and flowers from our wedding ceremony. I was proud of that house, a 2-story home on Maplewood Street near the park. It wasn't huge, but it was mine, built after years of hard work and double shifts at the auto factory. Emma had moved in only a few days earlier. She looked beautiful in that white sundress she always wore in the mornings, her hair tied up casually, her smile bright enough to make me forget the tiredness of my long hours. I thought I had everything: love, peace, and a future worth living for. But sometimes, life doesn't break with a loud noise. Sometimes it starts to rot quietly, one wire, one lie, one secret at a time. It began with something small: the electricity. The second day after the wedding, the air conditioner stopped working. I called an electrician, but before he arrived, Emma said softly, "Oh, you don't need to call anyone, Mike. My cousin Ryan knows this stuff. He'll fix it. No need to waste money." At that moment, I didn't think much. I trusted her. I smiled and said, "Sure, honey, call him if he can help." The next morning, I went to work. By the time I returned, everything was fixed, or so I thought. But the next day, the lights went out. The day after that, the fan stopped working. Then the fridge. Every day, something different. And every time, Emma said the same thing: "Don't worry, I'll call Ryan." I started joking. "Your cousin should start charging rent. He's here more than the electrician." She laughed, but her laugh didn't reach her eyes. Still, I ignored it, because love makes you blind. Or maybe love makes you see everything and still stay quiet. Weeks passed like that. I'd leave for work early, come home tired, and she'd tell me, "Ryan just left. He fixed the wiring again." Sometimes I'd smell a different perfume in the house, not the one Emma used. Once I noticed 2 coffee cups in the sink, one with lipstick, one with a faint trace of cologne. Something inside me began to twist. But I kept telling myself, she's my wife, she wouldn't do that. Then came that day, the day my world split open. It was a Friday. At work, my boss told me I could leave early because the next shipment was delayed. I was happy. It meant I could surprise Emma, maybe take her out for dinner. I even stopped by a flower shop and bought her favorite lilies. I wanted to see that smile again, the one I fell in love with. When I reached home, the gate was slightly open. The car I didn't recognize, a black Honda, was parked a few feet away. My heart skipped, but I still tried to ignore the noise in my head. I quietly unlocked the door. The house smelled different: perfume, wine, and something else I can't explain. The living room lights were dim. There were 2 glasses of red wine on the table. One still half full. I called Emma. No answer. Then I heard laughter, soft, low, coming from upstairs. My hands started to shake. Step by step I went up. The bedroom door was half closed. I pushed it gently. And there she was. My wife in my bed with her cousin. They didn't see me at first. The sound of their laughter turned to silence when I dropped the flowers. The petals scattered across the floor, white and red mixing with the shards of my heart. Emma froze. Ryan jumped from the bed, trying to explain something stupid like, "It's not what it looks like." But I didn't need an explanation. I saw everything I needed to see. That day the world stopped. My heart didn't break, it went silent. I didn't scream, I didn't hit anyone, I just stood there and said quietly, "Get dressed, both of you." They didn't move. I repeated it louder, this time, my voice cold enough to cut glass. That night I didn't cry, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch till morning, staring at the wall. When the sun rose, I walked upstairs and handed Emma the divorce papers I printed before leaving for work. She started crying, saying, "Please, Michael, it was a mistake. I don't love him, it just happened." But her words meant nothing. Because when trust dies, love becomes a ghost. I left the house, but I didn't leave the pain. It followed me everywhere, to work, to sleep, to every heartbeat that reminded me what she did. At night, I used to imagine her laughing with him while I worked overtime to build a future. That thought burned like acid. So I made a decision. If betrayal was the language she spoke, I'd answer in silence and in strategy. I didn't contact her for weeks, but I started watching, quietly. I hired a private investigator, not because I wanted her back, but because I wanted to know everything. And what I learned broke whatever was left of me. Ryan wasn't her cousin. He was her ex-boyfriend, the same man she told me moved to another state years ago. They had planned everything, from fake electrical problems to secret afternoons in my own home. And worst of all, she had transferred money from my account to his, almost $15,000. That's when I stopped being the broken husband and became the man they should have never betrayed. I didn't fight with her. I didn't scream or threaten. I just let her think she won. Then I made my move. I called the police and reported the stolen money. With proof from the investigator, texts, transfers, and photos, Ryan was arrested for fraud. Emma tried to defend him, but she didn't realize that in doing so, she exposed herself too. My revenge wasn't violence. It was peace, the kind that comes when your enemies destroy themselves. A year later, I sold the house where it all happened. Moved to a small apartment overlooking Lake Michigan. Some nights I sit by the window, looking at the city lights reflecting in the water. I still remember the day I dropped those lilies on the floor. Sometimes I wonder if love was ever real or just a well-written lie. But I've learned something. You don't need to destroy those who hurt you. You just need to watch, because karma never forgets an address. It had been 6 months since that night. 6 long months since I watched my wife and her so-called cousin in our bedroom, the same bedroom where I once promised her forever. I thought time would heal, but time doesn't heal betrayal. It just teaches you how to breathe without feeling anything. I had started over. A small apartment near the lake, new furniture, new routine. I woke up at 5 every morning, went for a jog, and drank coffee alone by the window. The silence that once hurt me now became my closest friend. At work, people said I looked different, colder, quieter. They didn't know why, and I never told them. Emma had tried calling me for weeks after the divorce, leaving long messages, crying about how she made a mistake, how Ryan used her, how she had nowhere to go. I deleted every message without listening till the end. Because you don't owe kindness to the one who set fire to your soul. One cold evening in November, I got a letter from the court. Ryan Brooks, the man who destroyed my marriage, had been sentenced to 2 years for financial fraud. He had tried to start a small business using the money stolen from me, and it backfired badly. For a moment, I felt something inside me unclench. Not joy, just quiet satisfaction. Justice had spoken. But what came next wasn't something I planned. 2 weeks later, I saw Emma again. It was raining that evening. I had stopped by a grocery store near my apartment. As I stepped out, umbrella in hand, I saw her standing across the street drenched, holding a small bag, her eyes red and tired. For a few seconds, my mind refused to believe it was her. She looked nothing like the woman I once married, pale face, trembling hands, no makeup, just guilt and rain. She walked toward me slowly. "Michael," she whispered. Her voice cracked. I didn't answer. I just looked at her, waiting for the lies. "I know I have no right to talk to you," she said, "but I've lost everything. Ryan used me and then left me. I'm not asking for forgiveness, I just needed to say I'm sorry." I didn't say a word, I just stared at her. Then quietly I asked, "Why here, why now?" She looked down. because I didn't know where else to go. There was a time I would have taken her back. But that man no longer existed. The man who believed in love, in promises, in forever, he was buried the day I saw her with him. So I told her calmly, "You made your choice, Emma, now live with it." And I walked away. She called after me, crying, "Please, Michael, I have nowhere to stay." But I didn't turn back. Sometimes walking away is the loudest revenge. That night I couldn't sleep. Her voice echoed in my head. Somewhere deep inside, the human part of me still cared, not out of love but out of pity. So the next day, I called a friend who managed a women's shelter in the city. I told him there was someone who needed help, a woman, no details. He said he'd take care of it. That was all I could do. A few days later, I saw her name on the shelter's donation receipt. She had accepted help quietly. And that was the last time I ever wanted to see her. But fate doesn't always let go that easily. 3 months later, my company promoted me to assistant manager. I bought a new car, started investing again, and slowly rebuilt everything that was broken. And then one day, out of nowhere, I received an invitation. It was from Emma. A short handwritten note. "I know you hate me, Michael, but I've been clean for a year now. I'm working as a nurse at a local clinic. Please come if you can. I just want to thank you for not letting me die." At first, I threw the note in the trash. But something about it stayed in my mind for days. Maybe curiosity, maybe closure. So I went. The clinic was small, near downtown Chicago. When I entered, I saw her helping an old man with his medicine. She looked peaceful. Different from the woman who once lied to me every day. When she saw me, she froze. Then she smiled a weak, grateful smile. "Thank you for coming," she said. I just nodded. We talked for a few minutes. She told me about the months after the divorce, how Ryan left her broke, and how she had nothing but regret. Her eyes were honest this time, not the fake tears she used to manipulate me. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I just felt done. I stood up and said, "I hope you find peace, Emma. We both deserve that." She nodded, tears falling silently. As I walked out of that clinic, it felt like I had closed a chapter forever. Months passed again. Life was simple, work, gym, peace. Until one day, I got an unexpected call. It was the same clinic. The nurse on the phone said, "Mr. Carter, Emma mentioned you as her emergency contact. She's been in an accident." For a second, I couldn't breathe. When I reached the hospital, she was unconscious, pale, fragile, hooked to machines. The doctor said she had been hit by a car while crossing the road late at night. No family had come to see her. No one cared. I sat there beside her bed, staring at the woman who once broke me. All the memories came back, the love, the lies, the betrayal. And I realized something. Hatred dies too, just slower than love. She opened her eyes faintly and whispered, "Michael, you came." I nodded. She smiled weakly, "Thank you for still caring." Then she said something that froze my heart. "Ryan is out of prison. He said he'll come for me." My hands clenched. Even after everything, that man was still haunting her. But this time, I wasn't the same man he betrayed. This time, I wasn't afraid to fight back. Ryan did come. 3 nights later, outside the hospital, I saw him. He looked rough, unshaved, broken, angry. He smirked when he saw me, still playing the hero, Michael. I didn't say a word, I just stared at him. He tried to provoke me, shouting about how Emma still loved him, how I was nothing. But when I told him, "You'll never come near her again," he laughed. Until he saw the security cameras, the guards, and the restraining order I had already filed through my lawyer that morning. His face turned pale. I leaned closer and said, "You once took everything from me, Ryan. This time I'll take your freedom." That was the last time I saw him. He was arrested again for harassment and violation of probation. And that's when I finally felt peace. Months later, Emma moved out of Chicago. She wrote one last letter saying she wanted to start a new life somewhere far away, maybe Texas, maybe Oregon. She ended the letter with, "Thank you for forgiving me when I didn't deserve it." I never replied. Because forgiveness isn't always about the other person. It's about setting yourself free. Now, years later, I still walk by the lake every evening. Sometimes I stop and watch the city lights dance on the water. The pain is gone. The memories aren't. But I've learned that betrayal doesn't destroy you, it shapes you. It teaches you to see people for who they are. It turns pain into power. And if you ever ask me what revenge really means, I'll tell you this. Revenge isn't hurting them back. Revenge is standing tall when they expected you to fall. 3 years passed since that chapter of my life closed. 3 silent, disciplined years of rebuilding myself. I had become someone new, calmer, sharper, and stronger. The kind of man who could walk through fire without blinking. Chicago was still the same loud traffic, freezing winters, people rushing everywhere. But for me, the city had become quieter. I no longer cared about the noise outside. I had found my own silence inside. I had learned to love being alone. Coffee tasted better when no one lied across the table. Rain sounded softer when there was no one pretending to love you under it. But life has a strange way of testing the walls you build. It was a Sunday morning when I first met Sophie Miller. I was at a small bookstore near Lincoln Avenue, one of those cozy old shops that smelled like paper and peace. I was looking for a book on philosophy when she accidentally bumped into me, dropping her stack of novels. Books fell everywhere, and so did something inside me. She laughed awkwardly. "I'm so sorry, I'm the clumsiest person on earth." I smiled for the first time in weeks. That title's taken, actually. I've dropped worse things in life. She looked at me curiously. "Like what?" I shrugged. "Trust." She laughed again, but it wasn't the fake kind. It was warm, real. That's how it started. A small, unexpected conversation that didn't feel like pain. Over the next few months, Sophie became my friend. Not love, not yet, just someone who didn't demand to know my scars. She was an artist, lived 2 streets away, painted cityscapes and rainy nights. She had her own story of heartbreak, one that left her cautious too. Maybe that's why we understood each other without words. We met often: coffee, art galleries, quiet walks by Lake Michigan. She talked a lot, I listened. And somehow, her laughter started filling the silence I had built around me. But deep down, I was terrified. Because once you've been betrayed, love doesn't knock softly. It scares you. One evening, we were sitting by the lake. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Sophie leaned back on the bench and asked softly, "Michael, why do you always hold back when people try to get close?" I didn't answer at first. I watched the waves crash gently against the rocks. Then I said, "Because the last time I let someone close, they burned down everything I built." She nodded slowly. "I get it," she said, "but maybe not everyone who touches fire wants to burn you." That line stayed with me for weeks. Maybe not everyone who touches fire wants to burn you. For the first time, I let someone new inside my world. Slowly, carefully, one day at a time. Winter came early that year. Chicago turned white, the streets covered in snow, Christmas lights glowing through the frost. Sophie came over one evening with a small box wrapped in silver paper. "Don't open it until midnight," she said, smiling. When I did, it wasn't jewelry or anything expensive. It was a painting. It was my house, my old house, the one I left behind. But in her version, the windows glowed with light, not darkness. At the bottom, she had written, Sometimes broken places still remember how to shine. I stared at it for a long time. And that night, for the first time in years, I slept peacefully. Months passed. We grew closer. And though I tried to fight it, love found me again, quietly, honestly, like a warm cup of coffee after a storm. But one evening, while helping her set up for an art exhibit, I saw something that froze my heart. A man walked in, tall, bearded, confident. He hugged her, whispered something, and she smiled. My heart instantly went back in time, to Emma, to Ryan, to that bedroom. My chest tightened, anger boiling through me. Sophie turned and saw my expression. "Michael, what's wrong?" I didn't answer, I just said, "Who's that?" She blinked, confused. "That's my brother Daniel, he came to help." The blood drained from my face. And just like that, I realized I was still haunted by ghosts that weren't even real anymore. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, watching the snow fall. I hated how fear still controlled me, how betrayal still lived inside me like an old scar that refused to fade. But in that silence, I finally accepted the truth. Emma didn't destroy me. I destroyed myself every time I refused to trust again. So the next day, I apologized to Sophie. She smiled, touched my hand gently, and said, "I don't want to fix your past, Michael. I just want to be part of your tomorrow." And for once, I let someone in without fear. 2 years later, Sophie and I moved in together. We didn't rush to marry. We didn't make big promises. We just built quiet trust, something that doesn't need words, only time. Sometimes, when I look at her painting on our wall, I think about everything that happened. Emma, Ryan, the lies, the pain. It all feels like another life now. But I know without it, I would have never learned how to truly love again. Because betrayal taught me something important. Love isn't about perfect people. It's about imperfect people who choose to stay. Last year, I got a message out of nowhere. It was from Emma. She wrote, "I heard you're happy now. I'm glad. I just wanted to say I'm sorry one last time." I didn't reply. I didn't delete it either. I just read it once and let it fade into memory. Because not every wound needs an answer. Some just need silence. Now, when I walk by Lake Michigan every evening, I see my reflection in the water, a man who lost everything but found himself. Sometimes the wind feels like a whisper from the past, and I smile. Because I survived. And survival is the purest form of revenge. If you ask me today what betrayal taught me, I'll tell you this. The worst pain in life isn't being lied to. It's realizing you believed in someone who never believed in you. But the best victory is loving again after that. And that's how my story ends, not with hatred, not with revenge, but with peace. Because when you stop waiting for apologies and start living for yourself, that's when you truly win.